let's take a more detailed example. Take a dictionary where keys are names and values are list of marks in three subjects. Write a function that takes this dictionary as input and returns another dictionary where the keys are the names and values are the average marks. This is a dictionary student marks where John, Bob, Charlie student names are the keys and list of their marks in three subjects are the values. First, let's see how we can calculate the average marks using built-in functions. So write def keyword for defining a function. Then function name calculate average. Then student data as parameter, and that is the names as the keys and values are the list of marks in three subjects. Now colon, then after empty dictionary, that is average marks for storing final result where keys are the names and values are the average marks. Now we use for loop for iterating over the keys. So for key in student data dot keys, and then, or you can write simply dictionary name also for accessing the keys, and then after take the marks variable which store the list of the marks for each current key. So student data at current key, and now we calculate the sum of the marks. So we will use built-in function sum and then pass the list marks. Then we will count the number of the subjects in this list marks. So we will use len function and we will pass this list marks. Then we will calculate the average dividing total sum by count for each subject one by one. Then we will store this in this dictionary, and now value average. Now after calculating average marks for each student, we will finally return the dictionary average marks. So when we call this function calculate average, passing this dictionary student marks. Now it returns the dictionary where student names are the keys and average marks are the values. We can round off these values, like we can use round function and round off to two decimal place. When you call this function again, it returns the dictionary and now it looks fine. So we have defined this function calculate average where student data as parameter, and now this empty dictionary for the storing final result where keys are the names and values are the average marks. And now key this loop for loop iterate over the keys, and now key will store firstly John and access the list of this marks in the variable marks. And now we have calculated the total sum of this list marks using inbuilt function sum, and we have calculated the number of the subjects using len function. Then We have calculated average by dividing total by count. Then we have stored in the dictionary average marks where name as key and value as average. And doing the same thing, Bob and Charlie, and after storing in the dictionary average marks, we have returned this dictionary average marks after terminating from this loop. Now, let's do the same thing but without using built-in functions. So just write the def keyword for defining a function. Then function name, that is calculate average. Then this dictionary student marks as input. Then colon. Now create a empty dictionary, that is average marks, and that will store the final average marks for each student, and that is dictionary where the keys are the names and values are the average. Now loop through each student for name in student marks, means the loop for name in student marks iterates over the each key student's name in the dictionary. So let's first print the student's name. Print name. Okay. Now when we call this function calculate average and giving student marks as input, and see, it prints all the keys present in my dictionary student marks. So name stores John first, then it prints John, then Bob, and the same for Charlie. Now if I want to print the name with the list of their marks, so I simply write student marks dictionary name and the key for accessing value. Then see, when I call this function, then it prints name, that is the key, John, and list of its marks. Then same for the Bob and same for the Charlie. So name stores keys and student marks and giving name for accessing values, that is list of their marks. Now if I want to print all the marks of this list one by one, so I simply write inner for loop for mark in student marks at the key name, and then I want to print mark. To run this code, see the loop, outer loop accessing keys one by one. So, so this loop first go through John. So name, sorry, name stores first John. Then here is name stores John and student marks at that name, and means at John key is the list of this marks. So it simply prints the name, that is John, and the value at that key. Then it goes to the inner loop where mark in student marks at name, and this is for value, that is value of this key John, that is 85, 19, 88. So we iterate over this list. Firstly, mark store 85 and print 85, then 90, and then same for the 88. Then it terminated for inner loop and goes to for another key, that is Bob, and name now stores Bob, and it prints first Bob, then key means the list of this marks here. Now in a loop iterate over this list whose key is Bob. So when we pass this key Bob, which is stored in the name variable, and we have accessed this list, and we iterate over this list to the variable mark. So mark, firstly mark is equal to 78, then it prints 78 here, then 81, and then 85. Now it again terminated from this loop and goes for the Charlie, and they they do the same thing for the Charlie and prints all the marks one by one. Means this outer loop prints the name and means that key and list of their marks, and then inner loop prints marks one by one for each student. Now we can use this idea for calculating average marks for each student. So simply we will go through with this calculating average marks for each student. Now we have to initialize variable total is equal to 0 and count is equal to 0. Total is equal to 0 to add up all the marks, and we use count is equal to 0 to count how many marks we have added. Now for accessing the list of marks for each student, we have to write in a loop for marks in student marks, and the key of that value means for that list of marks, that is name, then colon. Now this inner loop access the list of marks for the current student. If the current student is John, so it will access this list of the marks. Now we have to add the marks of this list in total. Total plus is equal to marks. Then we have to count all the subjects. So plus is equal to 1. So this total will store the total marks obtained by the student, and this counting the number of the subjects for each student. Now after counting and adding the marks for current student, so we have to terminate it from this loop. Then we have to calculate the average. Average is equal to total marks divided by count, number of subjects. Then we have to store it in the empty dictionary we have declared earlier. Average marks at the current student, that is name as key, then value is its average mark. Okay. Now after calculating average marks for each student, and storing in this dictionary average marks, we have to return this dictionary. Return average marks. So when we call this function calculate marks, calculate marks, sorry, calculate average. Function name is calculate average. Now we have to pass this dictionary student marks. See, it returns dictionary that stores student names John, Bob, Charlie as the keys and their average marks as values. And we can round off this average to two decimal places. So it looks fine now. One more thing, we can use any name for the parameter. So it doesn't affect the how the function works as long as you use same name inside the function. Like we can name it marks dict. Now you have to change it here marks dict, and then here also marks dict. See, now run this code and then call this function again. Now we have got the same result for the parameter marks dict. Now these are the some questions for your practice, like you need to create a dictionary of three fruits and their colors and then loop through it to print only the fruit names using the same concept. Then modify the loop to print only the colors instead of fruit names, and then fruit names and their colors together. Then after, create a dictionary of three household items and their prices, and then print the total sum of the prices of all the items. Then modify the loop to print the item that has the highest price. So this is your task and we will meet in next one.